It looks like we're live on Facebook. I have two lovely people with me. Patrick just went to just grab something before we begin. And I've got Anya up here looking quite chill and
Very chill.
drinking her tea, which is all good. So, and myself, Paul Hanrieder. What a day. Energetic wise, I'm feeling it. Anya's most certainly looking to feel it. Patrick's enjoying his first 22 degrees of sunshine in Ontario. And he's out on the deck in his muscle shirt and enjoying the hell out of himself there, it looks like. So we're just saying hi, Patrick. Patrick is
hello.
Canadian in the red with his shirt on there and sitting on the deck in, what is that, Southern Ontario?
Yeah, I'm enjoying a nice warm day today. It's the first taste of late spring, early summer.
Absolutely. So he's probably getting Anya's weather. She
Yeah,
gets
exactly. I'm trying to get my California tan on.
Well, it was blowing and dusty snow here about 5 minutes ago in Calgary.
Out.
So we came here, we had some discussions. We wanted to discuss what some people call the friend zone. And I'm going to start with my awareness of what the friend zone is. And then we'll get a feminine perspective. And then Patrick can weigh in as well with maybe a feminine masculine perspective. He's got a much more well-rounded awareness of it. We were talking a little bit earlier. So the friend zone to me is in the dynamic with women, men. Usually it's opposite polarities, and women and men, it can be either way, or it can even be a man or a girl if they're doing different polarities. But it's people that have some level of attraction or interest in the other person, and it's unstated usually, and it's most safely or most comfortably pursued from a position of being a friend with that person rather than trying to put more formal expectations, relationship wise, etc., around it. So it's just easy to get in and get comfortable and have really good deep conversations, and like, this is a man that I trust or a woman that I trust, and you have this pull to be closer to them and with them, but there's no societal way to go deeper without the opportunity of hurting them because maybe you feel sexual or drawn or attracted in some way. And there's no really good way societally to have that discussion. So people will go years, tens of years with this pull that's never stated or discussed, with the fear that the other person doesn't have the same pull and that it may ruin the friendship, is the friend zone in my perspective. And it creates this really crazy dynamic, and it's based on shame and guilt and a bunch of other things in my perspective. So who wants to wade in next with their perspective?
I guess I'll go. My perspective for me, from where I stand, because I've spent a lot of time in the friend zone and it used to piss me off all the time. But the mindset that I have at it now is as long as you don't have expectations of what's supposed to happen, that kind of just that's how I allowed it to fall out of my world. So I'll talk to somebody, whoever they are, whatever the reason that comes into my life. If I feel the attraction to them, I'm going to tell them. And then however they feel back, if it ends up where people end up playing together, great. If not, then I have no problem. I've been in the friend zone so long with so many people, I kind of get used to it. And like I said, I'm repeating myself, but it's just getting rid of that expectation was how I got rid of the friend zone being bothering me, because you're expecting certain things to happen, and like a lot of things in life, it's our own expectations that are creating all these issues. So instead of just letting things go and flow how they are, and whatever comes is the mindset that I have now.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
At least in my perspective, I was a lot of times in my feminine when I was in the friend zone? Did you find you were the same as a
Oh,
man?
absolutely. It was a lot of times I got put into the friend zone was because I wouldn't be masculine enough. I wouldn't be aggressive enough. I wouldn't go after what I said. It's not like now where I'll tell somebody if you're attractive, like I think you're really whatever the word comes out, or you're cute, attractive, beautiful, and I'd love to play with you. Like, simple as that. I don't beat around the bush anymore. But back
Right.
then, absolutely, I was like, no, I don't know, and that's I have a list as long as my arm of beautiful women that I couldn't close a deal with because I didn't have the right balance of masculine energy that I needed to do that
Right.
until I went through all my ascensions. So
And would you say, from my perspective, it was to keep the woman safe or to not make her feel the pressure? Because a lot of times they'd share with me, oh, I have a lot of pressure and the guys are really aggressive and I didn't feel comfortable. So I would mold myself into that thing that wasn't that. But at the same time, I was getting labeled as this soft, uh, effeminate person because there was never really a discussion about how you could present that or get that to move forward. So it was kind of keeping them safe. And that kind of safe vibe was what made the topic of sexuality or you called it close the deal or whatever ever happening. Does that resonate?
for me, it was more of a lack of courage. I wasn't trying to do anything for them or fit into anything. I just didn't have the courage to do and say what needed to say. It was always in the back of my mind. Oh, well, if you do this, it's going to work. And I was just like, oh no, I don't really want to do that because what if? And then I was all the fear and worry and doubt. I would talk myself out of it, of course, and then end up with regrets. So that's how it was with my issue.
Okay. There's lots more to get into there. We'll get to it in a few minutes, but if you're complete, we'll let Anya say
Yeah,
her.
absolutely.
Thanks.
I think the friend zone is like when I'll just label it with the opposite sex because that's my experience. But just having built an emotional foundation with someone and one person wanting or expecting or pining for something more than just a basic emotional foundation where they either want to have just, maybe it's just like a physical attraction or to pursue a relationship, but it's just one-sided. And the I guess from my end, being the lady, you kind of just like put the other person, like you like the emotional compatibility, but you're not really interested in having anything else. You just, have someone that you could hang out with and do fun stuff with, but you're not interested in pursuing any kind of sexual or intimate relationship with them.
Okay.
And so you're just kind of like, I don't see you that way. I just kind of see you as my friend.
Okay. I'm gonna call you on that a little bit, just
Sure.
gently.
Go ahead.
And not to, there has to be similar energy on both sides, and whether it's admitted or not, I don't think it would continue to be pursued. There has to be some level of sexual attraction or deeper attraction to create, like you can have friends, there's one thing, but the friend zone kind of people, at least from my perspective, I could feel it from the woman, but she would not acknowledge it in herself because there was some shame or underlying programming that wouldn't let that ever proceed. It may be different for you, but
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a two-sided energy, or else I don't see that same. It's kind of like an attraction or wanting to date someone or whatever, but doing it only halfway, kind of like what Patrick said,
Mm.
because you're afraid
Um,
that what's that rush or that thrill that keeps that person in your life? What's underneath it?
well, I want to go back to the first thing you said, but and say like I have guy friends, and what's stopping me is I just don't see a future with them. Like I just don't see it, and so it's like I don't have any sort of attraction to them whatsoever.
Okay. So if there was no future, is there still some other energy underneath that, but you've already decided that to pursue it would only lead to something that wasn't going to work out? Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, it's fine.
Sorry, I have
It-
society brain today.
don't worry about it, and be aware. I'm trying to be very gentle. There's triggers for me because I felt a lot of lack of truth, and I'm not saying from you in general around this topic. I'm just saying that there has to be that excited, interested energy before it can get to that level, or else, in my perspective, I would have never pursued it. So there's some unstated thing underneath that creates a little bit of sizzle that keeps me hanging and coming back and hoping for more. Do you agree?
Not for me, no.
Okay. So
that could be the guide too, though, Paul. If he's creating unrealistic expectations in his mind that don't exist on the other side, sometimes the guy has to take the blame for putting himself in that position. He didn't read into it. He kind of made it up in his mind and took what he felt towards her as, well, maybe she feels it the same way. And
okay, but it creates something unhealthy, because that guy will go and do favors forever and lots of cool things in those situations, trying to extend the energy. Maybe this is just my perspective, but there's a lot of collective angst I'm feeling underneath this, that there's some, I don't know, because I've seen lots and lots and lots of guys that'll just go beyond all, like help women move and do all this stuff over and over and over again in the friend zone. And it's them trying to indicate that they want something more, and it's never acknowledged. And it becomes
and that's the thing, though, because the guy's not saying something direct. Like, if he will say something directly to her, like, I'm attracted to you, do you see anything more than friends? Instead of just doing this passive aggressiveness, well, I'll just be nice and maybe she'll see as me as this, as me as this.
I wouldn't call it aggressive, but yeah, passiveness for sure.
Right, exactly.
I'm sensitive to that energy, so I could tell if someone likes me, but I wouldn't allow them to like do these favors for me. Like, if I could feel and interpret that one of my guy friends has a crush on me, I would not take advantage of that, and like I wouldn't allow him to do those favors for me.
But societally, it's very normal for that to happen, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, there's definitely a lot of girls, like my sister and my niece and other people that I know, they will take advantage of that because they don't have the same level of conscious. So like, oh, well, whatever, I don't care. This guy will do it for me or whatever because he likes me, and they use and abuse it, right? There's lots of women that do that.
Take meals or go on lots of dates where those things are expressed because it makes them feel good, but the discussion or the other energies aren't explored, and it becomes hard from a male perspective because that's societally expected, and it comes back to not communication, right?
Exactly.
What I need, what I
just
want.
Be upfront about it. What you're interested in, what you're looking for.
I've been upfront about it in my end, where the guy would go into that state, and I would just say, as soon as I picked it up and I could feel where it's going, I would be like, hey, like, I think you're so cool, but I am not interested in this, just to let you know where I am at. So I put it out there. Like,
right. And then if he still continues to pursue and do
it's on him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to be really, really honest. I am like so far off the charts triggered inside right now. So
I know, I could feel it.
Very gently. And I want to be really clear about it. But is that not a lack of integrity in the woman when we give? Because I've spent 30 years of my life trying to date and do all those things to try and find that place where we can be let in. And I found many times it feels like a lack of honesty to me and integrity in the woman, because and I'll go back and I'll take full responsibility now, and I've started a lot more often to ask and figure out where these things are. But to let that kind of stand and that energy imbalance stand and make it an expectation of the relationship has created a lot of anger in me. And I know a lot of men that are in that exact same place because it's just not discussed. and I don't want it to be anger, but it's this societal expectation that's created it. And then it creates a lot of self-worth, self-value issues afterwards, because there's no direct way. There's no societal norm where you'd go up and ask those questions without making somebody feel very uncomfortable in typical
Right, but if you're going into the new Earth society and the new way of being, direct is the way to go. Don't beat around the bush. Don't waste your time doing all this crap.
Absolutely.
Tell it like it is, and then if she reciprocates, great. If not, done. Remember too, though, the way, from what I heard, the way you're doing this and you're not getting things in return. You're doing stuff with that expectation. You're doing something, expecting something, and they get something back. What happened to that old adage of just doing nice things? Just do nice because it feels nice. The deed itself is its own reward. If you want to do something for a friend or a girl, great, do it. Don't do it because you're expecting it to lead somewhere. That's you setting yourself up for failure with your own expectations, right?
I agree completely, but societally we're not taught that way. Everything around
exactly. That's why we're
intimacy,
here trying to show them a new way, pulling ourselves out of the old cultures of the way things are supposed to go, and the courting and everything, all the different cultures, and then tap into the inner shaman and just you see all these games and just realize the crap. And that's why we're just being upfront and honest and open, and just it is what it is.
So these energies I'm expressing are a very real thing for a lot of people, because they're trying to follow. There is no courting process. There is no dating process. You grow up from the moment that you're kind of in high school, trying to get people that into your world that like you and are attracted to you, and then having this unstated process where the engagement thing or whatever guarantees that it'll lead to sexuality or a partner for life, where the rest of it is kind of like in this gray zone of, well, go take somebody to the bar, get their inhibitions down, and then maybe something will proceed on that front. So at least you can get your basic needs met, and then you won't be in lack anymore, which a lot of men are. And then you get let down by that also, because it was a bunch of fakery. The inhibitions went down because of the alcohol, and nobody was really in admitting what they wanted, and then a big train wreck happens at the end each time.
Right,
and everybody's
like you said, though, because you're operating from that place of lack, right? So you're going outside of yourself to try and find something that you think will complete you, instead of already being complete and just being, and what comes, which is where you're at now.
In a world of lack, and there's a lot of men in, like, from what I understand, Anya, you can help me or not, but a woman can have sex whenever the hell she wants because it's a regular thing that's stated. It may be with a bunch of men in lack, but women are getting dick pics all the time, or propositions and all this kind of stuff, because men are very forward about sexuality. I don't know if it's been happening to you personally, but women that are dating, they're so disgusted after a while. Do you know, and this is something that I had to look at really carefully, that when women are so disgusted by getting a dick pic as a lead on somebody that's interested, did you know, from a man's perspective, that's the most vulnerable thing that he could share with that woman, is a picture of his private parts? And to show that is a huge thing of lack, but a huge thing of a lot of injury. And she can't complain afterwards that his dick is too small, or his private parts are funny or dirty or whatever, if he's already shown before anything's even proceeded. So it's just like a desperation play to make sure that she can't hurt him again by showing that most intimate part of himself. And most women wouldn't see that. They'd see it as disgusting and not masculine or good. But I think it's a direct result of the whole societal not talking about all this kind of stuff, people lying about their energy and interests. And it's kind of a last gasp kind of thing. And women are disgusted by it, and they say men are weak and this is awful. I think it's just to the point that those poor men just gave up. It's like, okay, here, do you like me? And will you have sex with me? Because he's so in lack. And the woman just is put off by it hugely. And I don't blame her. It's not a bad thing, but it's just a result of all this shit. And it's not
Yeah.
acceptable, but it is. Go ahead.
It's like
Happen.
a lot of things that happen in the conditioning of both sexes,
True.
because you got to think about, all right, like when we went to high school, we are conditioned with feminism. So from high school to college, we have been taught this certain type of outlook of what feminine is in the societal standard versus what it actually is. And so that just becomes a trigger for a lot of women, right? And so like when they see that dick pic, it just triggers that, oh, fuck the patriarchy thing.
Hello.
So yeah, I can see it from both ways. I mean, I'm not a man, obviously, so I don't know the psychology behind that besides what you just explained to me. But like from the woman's perspective, probably why she feels that way is the feminism conditioning that she had to undergo, on top of just like that notion of, oh, like it's women are more vulnerable, it's scary to be a woman with all this stuff happening. So it's like all of that.
And I can only imagine how much hardening goes on from every one of those, and you feel like
Yeah.
you're getting beaten all the time. uh, I think it's a cry for help, and it's not a demeaning woman thing at all.
Yeah,
So
Well, it's another broken layer of our society. Like
exactly.
we have this patriarchal bullshit society where they take all the women's power away on one side, but then on the other side, they're like, oh, well, here, take your power back, take your power back. Like, listen, motherfucker, you're the one that took it away in the first place. So, like, this is bullshit. You created the lack, and now you're creating another imbalance so that we're both on the left and the right side. Meanwhile,
Yes.
we just need to come into that happy middle and have everything the way we're going, and then it'll be fine.
and it's
Yeah.
all about communication, all about vulnerability.
Yes.
What do you want? What do I want? Let's please, maybe we'll find something that's beautiful in the middle.
Right, exactly. Just be open and honest. Get rid of all the bullshit. Step out of the games of cultures of what expected and speak from the heart, and it'll all work
Yes.
out.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So here's a question, Anya, to help me learn, and I'm sure other men. If I had that attraction towards you, like a friend zone kind of attraction, how would you want to be approached that would make you feel safe and comfortable and respected?
I would want to be approached just like with the authentic truth, like, hey, this is how I feel about you. I've been feeling this way for a while. And like, these are the things that I like about you. And these are my intentions. How do you feel? And where do we go from there?
And would it be okay for that man to indicate that maybe he's had some lack in his life around sexuality, and there's a pull there that may not be the purest of his part, but it's a real part of him,
Sure.
and that may have some pull towards wanting sexuality and other things, or to explore those things, but at least stating it up front rather than leaving it as this unstated thing.
Yeah.
Because that's being a man right now in this society. It's it's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's like another thing we could talk about. I was just watching a clip of that where they were just talking about how, they're kind of like they're shaming men for being men and making men feel more feminized, and then on the opposite end they're making women feel more like masculine energy. So it's just been this like the confusing swap happening in society.
Absolutely. Well, and where have all the good men gone? I hear this over and over and over again. Well, I could be fucking masculine if you want me to, but I'm trying to allow women to feel safe and in this way, and don't be approaching about sexuality and all these things that they state outwards, and then they damn us for not being like, I don't give a damn in this moment, and I'm the rock, and all my masculine properties have been emasculated because that makes them feel uncomfortable, or makes them feel forced into, I wouldn't say forced is the right word, but held in a way that I'm getting what I want in this moment because I need to be met at least for a little bit, and then I can give back afterwards. It's so out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary place. That's surrender for a woman. And I'm fully prepared to be fully in my masculine. I've started wearing a leather jacket. I wear cowboy boots right now because it feels good to me. And I can and be aggressive if you want, grab you, hold you, pull you down on the bed with consent. But we got to have that discussion. You can't say that, oh, that makes me feel icky because you're now asking at every point. No, your body needs that because I got to ask at every point. And for my safety and yours, I'm going to ask for consent at every step of the way. And after the first time, we've opened all the doors. If you've given me consent on all those things, I'll proceed that way. And I'm going to expect you to say no in that moment, that now I've changed my mind. But in the last time, you had your mind in that way. And then I can proceed on a predetermined velocity. But that's a dance that has to happen first as masculine for the first time. It's like, hey, I'm feeling sexual towards you and I'm interested in this. And if I get shamed out of it, like, oh, you shouldn't really be talking about sexuality to me because this is the first time or whatever, you're slapping my little boy down to the ground and I can't proceed. But if I can find a woman that says, hey, I'm not feeling quite the same way right now, but let's keep talking. And once I build some intimacy and trust and connection, I may be all over you in a little while, but right now I'm not feeling it. Holy shit. Now I got some traction. I know where I stand and I'm not kind of all the unsaid stuff wondering. Because I'll tell you right now, as a man, energy system needs to be trained of what a woman's truth is. And a lot of times I've encountered where women maybe are sexually attracted, but have other concerns, and I'll feel that energy, but I've been told that I'm wrong. So then I'm like, my radar is kind of all fucked up and I'm not sure. So that's what I want to welcome in, is somebody I can communicate with, and she can be really clear. And it's a dance back and forth. The woman can't just expect the man to fully sync up and do exactly what she needs. She's got to tease him in a little bit and say, okay, yeah, I'm a little bit interested, but we're not getting in bed anytime soon right now. But then, oh, okay, so there's a spark there. My radar system is, yes, Anya's got a spark. I excite her. She interests me. I interest her. Poof, that's the permission I need to now come in a little further. But we don't get that feedback because that's societally not normal. It's like you're supposed to feel it and be in the moment and lean in for that kiss because it feels right. And then this awkward moment, I'm then trained off to falling through with those energies. But that's the energy of being swept off your feet and having fun, and women love it. But it can also be a direct invitation for being called a rapist the next day because there was no actual perceived consent or other things. And people can be in the moment and then regret it afterwards, which is very normal, typical. But that doesn't make me a rapist because we were both in the moment and we regret it afterwards. There's a big communication that has to happen afterwards. So in Me Too movements and all these other things, these energies are all mixed up. Nobody can change their mind after the fact, but everybody can be a victim if they want of a situation that maybe didn't go as cleanly as everybody hoped. But with some communication and saying, okay, yeah, I felt it. It went a little fast. Let's have a decompressed meeting afterwards or whatever. You can clean that up afterwards. And then the next time wouldn't be that way. But we're in this just kind of craziness. And this is, if we get all these discussions out in a forum like this, nobody's bad. Everybody's just learning. And we have no idea what's good, bad, without a lot of communication, discussion, and exploration. And that's what I'm hoping is the way to get friend zone into something that's different, where some things aren't being said, is how do we have that discussion? Maybe we've talked a little bit about that or whatever, but state that out for people. And it's like, okay, you're going to get some negative reactions because if you've been in the friend zone for 10 years, somebody might be a little frustrated that you haven't mentioned it all the way along, or there's some energies of expectation that were never put on the table. So how's both sides ever going to even know that it was there? And why is they disappointed? Because the expectation and the obligation and all these things were never talked about, because that's what they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a choice.
Mhm.
It's like I could speak from my end where I don't know what the female version of a friend zone is, where I would want to be, where my trauma would perpetuate me to chase after a particular kind of guy, and I would chase after him and then just give him sex because I was programmed that that would have him stay with me, which is not the case at all. But I would just keep giving and giving and giving, but it was my choice to put myself in that suffering. Like, he was very clear that this isn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
So after that point, it's up to me. Do I want to continue being in this situationship or just leave
Mhm.
and choose myself?
Mhm. I can speak from personal experience. There's a friend zone for the women as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's opposite because they'll
Yeah,
be my friend because they're curious, but they won't take it any further.
yeah,
So it's inverted. It's like, okay, yeah, I want to be in his life, and he talks about this stuff that makes me excited or horny or feel whatever, but there's too much trigger in there, so I'm really not going to engage. It's just way easier being on the fringe and experiencing rather than going deeper. And
yeah. Like, well, for guys, I think it's like you could correct me, but like, guys can have sex without emotion. So they might have a girl that's a friend and they could have sex with her once or twice and then just like, the next maybe week or so just like be like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" to the girl. Like, it's
Mhm.
nothing, but to the girl it's usually emotional based. Like,
Okay, so underneath that, from a man's perspective, after the once or twice, you get on the escalator, which has a whole bunch of hooks in it.
right.
And that's why a lot of times a man will leave, is because to
Yeah.
continue would mean much deeper commitment, which it's way easier staying aloof.
Yeah.
And now it hurts you because
Mhm.
you started to get emotionally attached. But once again, it was never a discussion. If you could have talked with him and say, okay, well, there's no attachments in this or whatever, I'm
Mhm.
enjoying this as well. I'd really like longer term for us to talk about relationship or whatever and how that would look, is way different than, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to give her a ring and I'm gonna have to start moving in here right away. And so many women have been dashed and hurt deeply, but they're not understanding that we as men become, I wouldn't say trapped isn't the right word, but too deeply engaged, or there's an attachment that starts to create when more has been given, and we're surfing on this edge of, am I committed and now I'm going to have to be drawn into that and be stuck? Not that it's stuck, it's just you don't really even know you yet. After
Yeah.
two times of sexuality, the first time is usually messed up shit where not everything's connected, and the second time is just starting to get there and you're starting to feel some emotion. Maybe you need 10 or 20, or what's that limit before both want more?
Mhm.
But it's never discussed. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're not going anywhere near engagement until we really know each other sexually, because I think that's really important between two people. That relationship has to be there before I start wading into meeting your parents and feeling all this other clingy emotional attachment stuff. So men make it easier, but we have to stay distant to feel safe, because that's really the only choice we have, is whether we continue the sexuality. It might have been really good, we wanted more, but it meant diving in when it wasn't really discussed. It was just an
Mhm.
expectation.
Mhm.
So I'm going to conjecture a lot of the women that are wandering around really hurt are because of that unstated thing societally, rather than a judgment of you or your sexuality or your body or any of the stories that you made up, because we had
Absolutely.
no way to go there. Like you and I were talking earlier, it's like, if you could just feel into the energy and, oh, my body's a little excited and I'm just meeting this person for the first time, um and you could have a way to explore that without having to get attached and now we got to move on, and
Yep.
I had sex with you. No, it's kind of like a playground. I went into sex and I explored it. Your body was really nice and this was fun, and I played on the playground and the teeter totter, and if you could have a way where that there was this like exploring space. It's like the sandbox. And here's the sandbox. So the first 10 engagements are around pleasure and exploring and understanding each other's bodies. And then we were starting to have some communication after that. It's like, holy cow, I've got really vulnerable. And now you're sharing some of your stuff. But instead, It's like, okay, you're not getting in here. The security guard is on until you start meeting my parents and meet my kids and meet all this stuff. It's a nightmare all of a sudden now. And now we're sitting in lack as men because we're not fully expressing ourselves. And then we're coming at you with lack, and it feels icky. And I'm sorry for that to all the women that I come with lack because of I'm there, but there's no way. So that's what we're talking about right here. Is getting out of that lack, getting into this is what I need in my life. And I love sexuality and I love playing. And it's not 15 people in your life. It's I'm exploring a dance with this wonderful person at this time and place. And that's all fine. But instead, it's like, okay, I got to have a couple more on the side just in case she lets me go. And then I feel dumped. And where do I find my intimacy or whatever? We can go in and say this isn't moralistic and this doesn't match up with marriage, but people are freaking doing it all over the place. You can be married and have affairs and 3 people on the side. You can be dating and non-committal. We're wandering through life looking for a person that meets us really deeply, and we don't know, but we got to make a decision without really having all the intimacy of awareness of the person. And that's not just sex, that's having hard conversations and saying I was wounded as a child and I was these, and then we're really hurt deeply by going into relationship with somebody that had something that they were lying about and they didn't tell us about, and we're both screwed. We're now damaged goods, and nobody won in any of that other than, yeah, maybe you stood in your power and you walked away from your marriage and you finally had a divorce after 15 years, when really you were just looking for deeper connection and you never had an opportunity to do it because the world built a whole bunch of rules around you to say you can't go there until you're married. And look at how attached and how all this mess happens. And then you find you're in a marriage and your partner doesn't even like sexuality because they got a wound or whatever, and sexuality is important to you. We obviously miss having some discussions really early on. That's my life, right? So any
Well,
comment?
that's why I say it's better to everything that I'm coming from. It's solved from the place that I'm holding for so many people in the world. When you make yourself a complete person, balanced and masculine and feminine, where you don't need anybody outside of you, you don't need any of these other things. You may desire them and want them, but everything you're looking for outside of you, you will find in you. And unless you're one of these people that has a twin flame, you could be fully capable to be happy on your own fully and not need any of that. And that way you're not looking for anything. I still desire to go out and play, but if it doesn't happen, I'm happy with just being me. Like I live in the moment and don't have expectations, and I'm not looking for things because I've found everything I need in here, and everybody else can do that too. And it'll make all these problems go away.
Okay, you're going to have to go a little deeper than that because you've talked very etheric, and I found it inside, and how you're saying you love yourself and there's no need for outward, but your body still craves intimacy, sexuality, touch.
I don't crave it. I desire it. There's a difference. Crave comes from a lack.
Okay, beautiful.
Right?
Keep going. And what does crave do to you? It makes you prostitute yourself.
Exactly. You're gonna end up doing things that you might end up regretting. When it comes to sex, I've always been more feminine than masculine. Even now that I'm balanced, for instance, my entire life, I can't do like most guys. You were talking about how easy it is for girls to have sex. Well, guys can do that too. If they want to go to the bar, they just want to lower their standards or do whatever. They can do whatever they want. But most guys have this ability. Most guys have this ability to be able to close their eyes and go somewhere in their head and fantasize about something else and not be where they're at. I've never been able to do that. I can't have sex with somebody that I'm not physically attracted to because I can't go wherever it is these guys do. I've laughed at my friends because we were at a party and there was this really large woman, and she was into him, and I kept poking him and teasing him, like, hey, go after her, go after her. And he was so drunk, he did. And he hooked up with her. He was not attracted to her at all, but he was still to go over there and able to perform and do his part in it. I could never do that in a million worlds. If I'm not physically attracted to you, my dick is not going up. You can't. I don't know how guys do that. It doesn't work that way. And tying in emotion, I can develop emotions really fast for people. Like, if I like them, I get to know them, whatever. I've never had a one night stand in my life. I don't know. I can't do that. It doesn't work for me. Sorry, we kind of went off track. What was the point you were trying to go after here, Paul?
Well, it's okay. So how do you feed and nurture that place in yourself when you've come from all this stuff that society's done, and find that loving place of yourself first?
Right. Okay, so you have to spend time alone. You have to realize that your cravings are from a lack, an imbalance of energy. A lot of people, a lot of guys at least, will have sex multiple times with many different women because they have an imbalance of masculine energy. They're predominantly masculine. They don't have enough feminine energy. So they're going out, connecting with that feminine energy through sex so that they can get some feminine energy inside of them. Instead of finding the balance, healing all your chakras, because when your lower 2 or 3 chakras are out of balance, that's going to cause all that too. So it's a complicated issue. You have to learn how to try and balance out your chakras. You have to find the energy inside you, find the masculine and feminine inside you, and find that balance that we all have. What else?
So
like it's all just it's all ascension work. It's all just peeling back the layers, getting to your core,
and choosing yourself,
like
and choosing celibacy for a little while, even
realizing you are worthy. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm on a continued celibate. I haven't had sex with a woman in 6 years. I chose to also do a year and a half of no masturbation, semen retention, and all that stuff, because it helped me heal everything. So everybody has a different way to get there. You can listen to all 3 of us. We're all going to have different ways. You can listen to other people on the internet. Everybody has their different ways. You have to go within and see what resonates with you. If you like this one method, then you go out and try it. Do you have to be celibate forever? No. You do it as long as you feel you're necessary. I did it to the point where I'm like, I finally had all my chakras healed. I had all my energies balanced. There was no craving, because I used to be like what I would consider the atypical guy. You got to jerk off like every day or every other day, because that's part of being a guy, apparently, right? You know,
but it's other uses.
But that's an imbalance. That's an addiction. Everything is supposed to be in balance, and so once I did that for so long, it's like, okay, well, I do kind of want to do it. But then I analyze, you're analyzing everything. Well, am I wanting to do this, or do I feel like I have to? And if you can learn to feel the pull on your energy fields on whether you're in control of it or not. And that's how you can tell the difference between desire and a craving.
And you're going to want it from connection, intimacy, depth, rather than from, okay, shallow looks, or, oh, she's hot and I just want to go.
Right. I could find the most beautiful woman in the world. I would be physically attracted to her, but I would never pursue her, because there's got to be something, even just to play with somebody. There still has to be a deeper energy connection. Like, she has to have an energy similarly to mine. Otherwise, I'm going to go and I'm going to hook up with her, and I'm going to walk away with it, and I'm going to be like the person I was a few years ago before I did all my inner work. It's happened to me. I had this lesson happen about, I'd say, 6 to 9 months ago. I had a random person on Facebook come on to me very strongly. I was very attracted to her. So I decided to connect to her energy. And when I say that, I masturbated to her. That's how I connected my energy to her. And as soon as I did, I would walk away from it, and my energy would just bottom right out. And that was me finding out, okay, well, she says all these things, she does all these things, but connecting to her energy, it pulled me right down. All my insecurities came back, all my I'm not good enough, and all this other crap that so many people have, all my lacks, everything. So that was my lesson. Be careful with who you connect with, because energy doesn't lie. And that's why as I was saying, if I'm going to be physically attracted to somebody, they also have to be on a similar vibration to me, or it's not worth it. It's the same reason I don't eat meat, because for me, it lowers my vibration. If I go and I eat a burger today, I'm going to be angry and pissy for the next 2 days while I process all that low vibe out of me. So I can't do it. I've chosen to just give it all up. It's the same with sex.
And so some of that energy was lust energy, which is a lower vibration as well, right? Where you're pulled
Oh yeah,
to have that hookup and experience that experience, which is, it's, I wouldn't say it's a bad vibration or whatever. Lust has its place in the desire kind of range.
well, you can have passion. Passion would be
Passion is
better,
a better
right?
word.
You
Yeah.
could, you know, lust, you're right, it is a lower vibration, and then with it comes the other things that are in lower vibration.
Mm-hmm. And I think we really need to, part of that process of celibacy and all that kind of stuff is starting to disconnect all the hooks and attachments from our past relationships so that we really find ourselves. And then it's really about choosing ourselves. And I think women have been more empowered to choose themselves just the way society is. So they'll say, okay, I want this man, or I want this. It's just more normal, where men are just kind of giving themselves up just so that they can fill their lack, right? And then that feels really weak and wishy-washy to women. And yeah, so some of their complaints are absolutely valid.
Oh, for sure. Both sides definitely have valid complaints about the other. It's like every stereotype. It's based on fact, whether it's the generalization of expanding it to people that it doesn't apply to when the problem comes in.
Mm-hmm. So to get out of that, what would you recommend? Like communication, we just finished talking about that. Truth, saying, okay, I'm really attracted to you, or I'm sexually attracted, or I'm a little bit in lack in this area. So some of my pull may be towards sexuality. Just understand that it's not some slight on you or whatever, and I'm working through it. All those honesties give a clearer picture of the person that's approaching, right? It's not all this like angst or whatever.
Well, for me, it would be doing the inner work, because you need to be able to get to the point where you're desiring to have sex with somebody, but you don't have to. Mm-hmm. So for me, it meant pulling back. It meant withdrawing from the world, not having connections with female, not having sex with myself, withdrawing all that so that you can have true lack of it all. And it's going to drive you crazy for a while, because you're so used to just giving in. But once you do, you take your power back, and then you're the one that's back in control, and you could do what you want, when you want, how you want. And you're going to go back into, because when I first got back into it, I, like everything else, I was walking on eggshells, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start by doing this. And then, because I don't want to lose lack of control. So it was like a little bit. And then I found, okay, well, you're going to do it like, oh, I'm going to do this every day for a week. And like, oh my God, I'm so out of balance. Well, you're going to find your balance on what makes you happy. And as you do everything, you become super conscious of your energy and where it goes and what's pulling you. So you just have to be aware of that and learn to, your main goal is to just stay balanced and centered, because life is super easy when you do.
And we're not honoring our body. We're not honoring our boundaries. We're not honoring all these things when you get out of like in lack and all those other things, because you're just not hearing it. And society's taught you that, or you're so wounded or victim. So this process of breaking out of that kind of stuff, we started in the friend zone, and it feels like we're way out, but we're not, because the friend zone is not honoring and respecting ourselves first. So men, as our side, if we're accepting to be in the friend zone with a woman and not having the discussion because that wasn't societally acceptable, and we got ourselves into that place, blah, 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 blah. I sat from this other side and I said, okay, I'm blaming the woman a little bit because she's accepting and allowing and all this kind of stuff. There's still a little bit of weird honesty stuff in there that's not being said, that both could get a lot more clear on by having some more complicated discussions, right? It's like, okay,
exactly.
And I'd love to do things for you or whatever, and I want to be in your life, but is there any opportunity that it could proceed to something else? And it might destroy the friendship, but that's maybe in time that honesty could be recognized as a gift back rather than a slight, if that means anything, if that makes sense. So having that woman say, okay, no, I don't really feel sexual about you, or I'm really not wanting you in that way. It might be a really hard discussion. He might be a little bit angry, and a man has to be aware of these things and not take it out. But that's a release that would save him so much pain and suffering longer term. It would be magic. Because
And also realize too the
right.
huge amount of courage it takes a woman to say that to a man, because she can tell, well, if I say this, what if he does get angry? What if he does this? What if and she wants to avoid all that, right? So it's better to just maybe not say it. It's not the right thing to do, but that's the easier road for the people in that
for both.
mindset, right?
It's a huge amount of courage to say I'm sexually attracted, and I'm putting it all out there, and your heart is wide open in that moment, and you're smashed at the end of it, because there was all these stories and all these hints and all this stuff that get dashed in an instant, but at least you can put them all to bed or release them and understand that ghosting a person or walking away, you have no idea where you stand in any of this kind of stuff. There's all these energies now where we can't calibrate ourselves. We can't calibrate to say, am I reading this right? Is this feeling right? Where some just conversations where you can just be vulnerable with people and going to a level of depth of intimacy of conversation, just saying, okay, I got to be really vulnerable. I know it might hurt me, but my heart's really wide open here right now. Can we talk? And I'll agree to be as receiving as possible if you can be as clear as possible. How do you negotiate that? How do you get to that point where you can say, okay, oh no, I really don't feel like you that way. And you can see it in their eyes and they're looking at you and saying, I'm not. And then I know from a man's perspective, when a woman will giggle at my jokes or they'll touch me sometimes or whatever, I may lead that up to be meaning more because I don't know what's normal for that person. But a whole bunch of factors have led up to that feeling of really openness that maybe there's something more, that it could crack me wide open or whatever. And it's not belonging to that woman, but it's the first step of healing. To be able to trust a woman and say, okay, she said her truth, even though that might hurt me. And I love her for that. And I'll respect that woman for the rest of my life. I might just kind of like have to walk away for a while and clean up that mess that's inside of all the feelings. And it's not even just that woman's thing. It may be the 30 women before or the bunch of other friend zone. And then I have to question myself. And then you go into that bubble for a while and you start examining, was that real? And what was this? And what was that? If it's there on both sides, and we can build a community space, because this needs to be kind of held in a community space, because there may be emotion that woman can't support you through, but to have a man or another woman or somebody that can say, okay, let's talk about this now. Because really it's a wound that was created from all these societal norms that we're both participating in, that we have no way to walk through. And I'm not saying it's the woman's responsibility. I'm saying it's a shared responsibility to get that energy out on and in the room in front of us rather than
communicate it. That's what it comes back to me. All this comes back to communicating openly and operating with no expectations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I honestly think a better friendship can exist. It might not be immediate, but you're going to trust that person for their integrity and that willingness to go to the mat for you right then and there to explain what you really feel, rather than keeping something out there because it might hurt him.
Right, because now you can base it on if you actually enjoy this person and want to be their friend, or move on because you were only really interested if there was a possibility of sex.
But that's a person that you can trust for the rest of your life, that can have that hard conversation with you and be in their directness and integrity. Because I'll tell you right now, the stories that I'm saying about that person, it being in the friend zone of are far worse than hearing the truth. And actually it'll hurt me far less to hear it direct rather than now, if you're lying with your energy and saying, I don't want you in that way, I've experienced that a lot, and then the pull keeps happening, that's a whole different story. But the stories we have, whether you're a man or a woman in the friend zone or whatever, are hurting us far more than knowing the truth, because you're trying to align the facts and the actions of that other person and how they've talked to you and how they've giggled or how they've touched you in the past to align with some story that's not panning out, but you're scared shitless that it's not going to turn out. So you just get stuck in this muck, if that makes any sense. And I hope I'm not projecting on anybody or whatever. That's just my experience of how I'd like to be treated in that situation. And there's some for me and there's some for them, because there's a gift in every exchange. It's not about people have to do it, but there's a recognition of something deeper that can be shared if the communication be had during the process, than just to say, okay, I'm not interested, goodbye, or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm not interested, but we've had so much beautiful stuff happen. I'd like to preserve some of that, but really I don't see it going there. And then it just takes that whole piece out. And then, okay, maybe you need to be supported in your lack or whatever, because that was what drove it in the first place. And everybody's, I don't know, women have lack too, just as much as men. Sometimes
Oh, for sure. Everybody does. Any unhealed, fully awakened divine being is going to have lack until they process through everything, guaranteed.
And honestly, having those hard discussions is going to make somebody way more attractive or whatever, because you're getting depth, you're getting vulnerability, you're getting a connection. But at least now you know it's not around sexuality, it's just around knowing that person and really liking who they are. Intimacy and sex are not the same thing. I've got lots of women friends that want to talk really deep about stuff, but I'm a lot confused sometimes about, is that sexual attraction, or is that just they really like the depth and the masculinity that's being shared? So it's still an area where I'm negotiating the path. And I'm not talking negotiating like having a discussion with a person, but just trying to figure out what's real and what's sexual attraction and what's playful and dancey and all that kind of stuff. And really, as Anya and I were talking just before the video started, if we could just be playful and dancey about our sexuality and what we're feeling in our genitals and what's feeling in our heart, just so that we could maybe explore a person or make a request to say, I'm feeling really something sexual. And can we explore this in the moment without a whole bunch of attachment? Then you can see something that's underneath that's just bubbling, and it's like a little brook, and it's like, okay, is there more there? But you're not going to know if there's more there until you go there. That's where I see at this new, more aware level, we can start to dance and play. Did you want to talk about your live that you did yesterday, Anya? Because that was so beautiful to be so pure, but it may not completely apply here. I don't know, your choice.
Sure.
Okay.
I just saw an old friend that I haven't seen in a while, and we were just, we talked every now and again, and obviously lived on opposite ends of USA, but he came into town and we were just hyped on hanging out, and we spent the day together, and it was so much fun. And he like helped empower me throughout the day. He's super hyper masculine, but like it was already like 9 p.m. and it's like one of those like unspoken things of like, so what do we do now? What's gonna happen? But it was like just like that anticipation, but no one was saying anything. And he went to take a shower, and I just passed out on the couch because I was fucking driving all day to the desert. But and then I was just like, I think we were both just thinking about it, like, okay, well, this could happen or this couldn't happen, and like whatever. But like intuitively, I was like, nah, this ain't the move. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going home now. but the whole dynamic between us like shifted.
And look at the innocence and playfulness of just that admission.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I felt something, and it was that sexual or not, I don't even know. But the only way to have explored it would mean you got to kind of take a step on this commitment
Yeah.
thing, which is really messy and isn't talked about. But at least, I don't know, in that, would you say it might be a good thing to have a like a discussion in that point? It's like, hey, I'm feeling a little aroused, or this feels kind of whatever, but it would be very different and very new and maybe feels hard. Is that something that you think could have helped expose more what's going on?
I think if it was like with a different person, yes, but I had already chosen in my mind that I would rather keep a creative work relationship with him because we know the same people, we run in the same circles.
Mhm.
So I had made that choice. But if it was a different situation, I would have had that discussion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's levels of friendship and judgment and all these things that all go with how we connect with other people based on how they would perceive it, and all this kind of stuff that's not really part of what our inner child really wants to have, and that exploration. So we make choices that are a little bit, I wouldn't say mangled up, but they got all these extra factors in that we're not even aware of because of those, how we might be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as a person, how many times do you get in those situations where it's feeling really juicy and nice or whatever, and you've just sat on the couch and you've played, and most of the time we would not first think about having some deep communication there on that couch. It would be about, oh, do I move on that feeling, or do I kiss, or do I
Mm-hmm.
whatever, or do I get more sexual? Where really it just needed a conversation so that you can start to unwind all those things and say, hey, I'm really feeling this thing and it's feeling really hot and sexy, and I don't want to spoil the moment, but could we explore this without any attachment?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men, that would be like freedom. And I think this avalanche of masculinity and acceptance and stuff would show up, because that's really empowering for a man, because he's negotiating in the space of not knowing where it might lead and what the expectations are, that he's feeling that hotness, and he's probably more likely to act on it, but he just needs permission. Um, but then it needs to have consent with it, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm feeling this really hot thing. Can I touch your body? Can I kiss you? We take it further or whatever? But that's not usually discussed. It's just like, oh, sense it and it feels right, and all these kind of things. I'm going to tell you right now, and maybe you can correct me on this, Anya, or whatever. It might feel a lot clunky for the first little time. I always do this in my sexuality with a woman, is start to ask for consent. It's like, can I touch your body? Can I kiss you? Can I? And they'll be like jarred by it and stuff sometimes because it feels really clunky and uncomfortable, and they'll want you to flow or whatever. But until, if it's a very early relationship, until you've kind of set the bar of what consent is, I could violate you in an instant, because I don't know what your traumas are and what abuses you maybe had and how your last boyfriend was. Do you think it would be clunky or weird? It might feel off, but would it make you feel safer in the long run to ask for consent at each step?
Um, I think consent is fine. I think it's just like in the energy of how it's said. If it's just like this, like a timid energy, it might feel clunky. But if it's like just like, hey, like, just are you okay? Like, like I'm trying to have your best interest in mind, then that probably feels safer. But I think it's probably nice for some experiences where like you get asked like, hey, can I kiss you?
Mhm.
Like you don't really hear that much these days.
Well, in lieu of a conversation, when you can't read the energy yet,
Yeah.
it's the only safe path.
Yep.
So the flip side would be, hey, I'm really feeling hot. Would you like to go to full intimacy or intercourse or whatever? And it's like, no, I'm on my period or something. And those are unstated things that are really feeling uncomfortable, and they're feeling the energy, but this could be messy.
Yeah.
something beautiful starts to come
Yes.
out of that. It's like, okay, what are you wanting? What's your body saying in this moment? Where none of this is done in the old way. It's just kind of like feel the energy and go to the end, and where that consent or having a conversation, say, hey, I'm really feeling it. I'd like to explore your body. I'd like to worship you. I'd like to do all these kind of things. In an instant of getting that consent, I think you're going to open that man's energy so much and so direct. And you're going to say, okay, so if you're giving me kind of like a free pass to explore, I'm going to give you permission to say no at any point in time. And all I ask is that we discuss it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's not feeling good, or it's dirty down there, or it's this, or it's that, or whatever. And then in an instant, that ability to shift what's going on based on, oh, now you've touched one of my traumas or my triggers, is now all of a sudden out. And then you're going to trust that person even more. It's like, he stopped when I said no. What the hell? All men don't just follow their dick or whatever. Is the dance. And that's the thing that we're all looking for, just a little bit of a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, what are the limits of what this is? And you go up against the limit, and then all of a sudden you can change your mind. Guess what? It's like that limit is now full penetration versus just touching first and second base. And I don't think those conversations are hardly ever had. And it hasn't given us our choice, and we don't have control of our body. And then women, I know a lot of times feel like they're not respected and these kind of things, but really we never had an opportunity to know it. And most men I know that are kind of friend zone kind of men or whatever will honor anything that the woman wants in any way, shape, or form. They just have to know. And they don't most of the time. So it's cool. It's by having this discussion and awakening people to all the unstated and the expectations and these things, all of a sudden we can make informed choices about our body and how our sexuality goes. And some people might not like it, but exploring sexuality or using it as a healing tool is a massive thing that I teach. And we need to find partners that we can feel safe with and go to those edges. And I'm like, triggered as fuck, and you're scaring the hell out of me. Can we go there, and can we breathe, and can you hold me while I cry?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to heal something massive in that moment. But if you can't get to sexuality until you're married and fully committed and all these kind of things, you may not ever get through that thing because it might be too scary for that partner or other things. So sexuality as part of our play, as part of our child, as part of all these things, I've had to give up a lot of shame. I grew up Catholic and all these kind of things, but any shame about our sexuality, touching our body, pleasure, or sharing that with another person is fucked. It's outside judgment. It's whatever. We have to get comfortable with it and then start making choices. Draw people in that want the same thing and want to get pleasure. And it's not from lack, and it's not from obligation or expectation or whatever. That's going to be the most exciting partner you're ever going to have, because they're just a playful little child along with you and your playful little child. And then it's a dance, it's play, it's giggles, it's relaxed. So that's what we're getting back to. Like you said, Patrick, once you're out of your lack, you're made peace with your inner child, and none of this is shameful. And that's self-love as well.
Yep, exactly. And then that's when you're going to get everything you want, because you're not needing it, or you're just desiring it. You're not craving it. You don't have to have it.
There's no density in it. Yep.
You become a great manifester. That's the stage I'm in now. I'm learning to become more and more manifesting. And like I've been at my parents' for the last 3 weeks, and I decided I'm going to stockpile on all kinds of movies and TV shows for when I go back and don't have internet. And I've been watching all the movies that I've wanted to download. I'll turn on my parents' satellite. They're all on TV. They're like, oh my God, like I'm making them appear into my life. I didn't even need to do that. Here they are on TV every day. I turn on. There's another one on my list. That's manifesting. That's not random or coincidence. That's me making my reality.
Mm-hmm. And can you make reality from lack? Probably not, right?
No, exactly. It's the law of attraction. It's when you're afraid of something that you don't want, that's you pulling it into your life instead of loving it. Like I have absolutely no fear of the invisible boogeyman that so many people in the world do. I could walk into a COVID wing and I have no fear. It wouldn't bother me 1 second. It doesn't exist in my reality. That's a lower vibration thing that affects people on that level to teach them things. So.
And how much does society teach us that not having a partner or somebody to keep us safe or to spend time with is such a bad thing?
Oh, right. Well, that's the old program, right? Like, you're supposed to grow up, you go to school, get married, or get a job, get married, have kids, retire, and die. Like, that's the program we were all taught. The fact that you're supposed to be single and alone, like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Oh, Anya, you're your age and you're still single. Like, oh my God, like a couple more years, you're going to be one of those crazy cat people. Like, whoa, you better find a man because that's what you need. Like, well, no, what if she wants to be alone and she wants to do things? I'm quite happy being alone. I don't need a partner in my life. Why would I'm a complete being on my own. I love life. I want to go on adventures. I want to travel the world. I want to play. I want to do some things like that. But why do I need to have a person in my life to do that? Like, because I'm not lacking anything.
And that play includes sexuality. The play.
Well, that's what I say. That's what I mean when I say play.
In the bedroom. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's part of being a well-rounded person. Look at all three of us. None of us have direct partners. We're not hitched to anybody. We've been really exploring ourselves, and we shine, and we're happy, and we've gone and we've looked. That's why some of this stuff is so triggering. Some people don't want to watch it because we're calling out truth of all these energies that we've all experienced and putting them on the table so that they can be healed. And under of why, okay, societally it says this, and societally we're not talking. Societally, we're giving up on sexuality that could have been possible because we were refusing to have a conversation, that it might be uncomfortable or it might be squishy or somebody might get hurt out of it. And it doesn't lead to anything positive for any of us. And we're now just turning it around and saying, okay, I give up on that shit. Let's do it right this time, right? So we covered a lot of ground. We got very deeply into some of the background of it. I don't think we got too far off topic, but these are the discussions that we need to have. These are, if we have people in the friend zone and we're not sure why they're in our life and that there might be something else, the greatest gift you can sometimes give is to ask, what do you want more? Are you there? And to let them off the hook easily if you have the comfort and the courage to be able to do it, or just a little bit of probing questions. Or if you're a man and you're in that space and you're getting really frustrated, just have the integrity to understand that might be coming from your lack and that you want more, but you've never really talked about it, and that you really need to have that conversation, and it can let you free. And it also heal you by saying that. Like, it's like, okay, societally it says I'm supposed to hang around for a woman and wait till she figures it out or whatever. Well, you're not really choosing yourself at that point. That woman will find you when you're fully in your balance and you're fully happy and you're fully empowered. And it'll be a completely different thing. And if she was really interested in you, she'll be all over you at that point, because it's like you've given permission to be true.
Right, because if you're having this desire for this dream woman or man or whatever you're attracted to, well, you're not going to find that person until you're the reciprocal person of that dream. So if you want that dream woman, you need to be the dream man that's going to fit with her. Absolutely. Same vice versa, so.
And it's healed and it's empowered and it's willing to have conversations and be direct and all those kind of things in really loving, balanced ways, right?
Exactly.
If you're being direct from a wounded place, you're probably going to get angry and a whole bunch of energies will come up. And I'm very grateful for this exploration of this energy. I have my wounds there. Those are wounds that I don't want to continue to carry. But now we've unearthed all that while I stood in my trigger and you guys shared all this stuff. I got to see my part in it. I got to see their part in it. And the real fact of no communication. And once you see that no communication, you're both doomed to failure without communication, because nobody knows what each other wants. And you're going to be really hurt, actually more hurt by not asking than by asking, guaranteed. Because you'll build all these stories and you'll wait, and this angst will come up where if you ask and then they're direct, it's like, hey, I'm not feeling it. And it's like, I'm crushed inside, but at least they know. And then you'll go inside and you'll look at all those wounds and all this stuff will heal. And then that dream person will show up. It might even be that person, because you'll feel like a completely different person to that person once you're fully in your integrity about what you want and who you are, and that you need sexuality or want sexuality as a man to be in a human body. It's a balancing thing. It's a beautiful thing. There's no shame in it. Look at all the undertones that are underneath all that stuff, right? So we're pretty close to closing. So how about we get closing remarks? Anya, do you want to have some?
I don't think anything has come up for me, so I don't really think I have any.
No worries. We covered a lot of ground, and I know you were pretty sleepy already from that. So hopefully we haven't overwhelmed or exhausted, because we covered a lot of energy. Beautiful. And
there's a lot of off-topic conversations today, and those are my favorite parts of all these lives. When we go off topic and start talking about personal stuff and whatever comes up, those are the fun conversations for me. So,
well, we're exploring the root of the energy, and all that side stuff is not enough for a full topic, but is stuff that really needs to be discussed. And
this is why everybody should tune in to see what the trio of living your light people will do. What comes up in the conversations. Three distinct personalities, all with totally different lives, yet we can all still come together, and there's always a shared frame base that we can all agree on. So
and I think that's important, because we're building a community to discuss really complex societal norming type of topics. And if we can't talk about our experience and how it's hurt us and what our expectations are and what the obligations were, or at least voice them, we'll be suffering from them all day long, and until you can get it out on the table. And it's beautiful to have Anya in the room a lot of times and get the feminine perspective, because the masculine perspective, we're in a world like this is how men are and this is how they should be. And to get a feminine perspective sometimes is really hugely refreshing. So I wanted to state, I put out a call on my Facebook page Sunday at 10 a.m. or Saturday, what day is that? We're on the 10th. Light workers that are kind of feeling alone and don't have anybody that's you lost all your family and your friends in the energetic divorce and the awakening, to start kind of gathering and to start talking exactly like we're talking here. It's the first stage right now of living your light. There's lots of opportunity just to come in at the base level, but light workers are people that want to change the world and have new perspectives on things. And it's kind of, I wouldn't call it an advanced level, but it's kind of like jumping in head first on asking for what you want and how you see a new world developing and building a place. I hope to have that every week at 10 a.m. kind of thing, unless a better time exists. But getting into a reality where you can speak your truth and other people are going to say, I feel the same thing. I don't know how we're going to ever do this. A lot of the sexuality stuff we're talking about, being more free about it, being more open about conversations, is a new world. It's us living in our inner child and negotiating play with other people. It's not this dirty, heavy thing that you got to be married for. It's this beautiful, dancing, playful thing that you can share with another person, but there's got to be an energetic connection, depth. It's not just having as many people as you can get through your life. No, it's having somebody come into your life to dance and play and have fun and have really hard conversations and whatever. So I'm starting to build that place. Living your light is always going to be that place at any level that you want to engage. But the first level is we're creating a new reality. We're going to meet with other people that want those same realities. We're all going to insert our pieces that we feel is important in that reality. We're going to talk about it, have lots of discussions, and it's all going to kind of go into the hopper, and it's all going to be mixed together, and something beautiful is going to get distilled out the bottom. That's the new world. And we're creating that new world. It's starting in our energy. We may not be able to expect it to show up, because I don't think all this stuff that's going to happen in the world when the new truth comes out, that new world isn't going to exist immediately, but it's going to exist with us. And we're going to have community celebrations and go to different places and meet people and live these realities, work out all the kinks. And then one day that reality is going to be ready to present to everyone. And people are going to love it because we have undone all the conditioning. We have undone all these old rules, and we found new ways that are mutually, unconditionally loving for everybody to participate in. And it's that chance to first start and try something new and start asking for something new and try it and be fumbling and fall on our face the first couple times when we try it, but in a place where it's perfectly okay to fall on your face. And then you talk about it and you learn, and it's like, oh, my wounds caused this. And all of a sudden something pure comes out afterwards. So that's coming. Look on my Facebook page. It's Saturday the 10th at 10 a.m. Mountain, which is GMT -7. Hopefully this topic, I see there's a whole bunch of comments from Santi. I'll get a chance. I couldn't read them all because they were quite long, but we'll respond to those afterwards. Thank you both. Thank you.
Welcome.
Even in this crazy, dense energy of whatever's unfolding right now, we had this beautiful space of holding our truth and speaking of what matters to us in our heart and what feels right. So thank you, and I apologize. All energies of trigger, etc., I released from this conversation, and it helped me a lot, actually. So thank you both, especially Anya. Patrick kept me in control, but there was some crazy energies that don't belong to Anya at all, but are from my past, and we got through them, and I can see the light now that I've sat with them in a held space with two other beautiful beings. So that's how the process works in community. So thank you. Okay, Monday next week, and if anybody shows up for Saturday, that's the same stuff here. So my attempts at getting an Apple podcast thing together got rejected, so I got to figure out what hoops you got to jump through, but eventually this will be a podcast, and it'll be on our page, and then it'll be on somewhere else as well, so that people can just listen to it in the car. And I realize they're quite long, but there's a lot of truth that comes out, and I'd say this is a healing session. Every time you listen to one of these, listen to them from beginning to end. There's a lot of truth in there. There's a lot of stuff that'll percolate up, and that's what we're trying to do, is share our experience so that others can take some of it on and grow from it, and beautiful things happen. So thank you all. Thank you, Anya, and thank you, Patrick. And
Welcome.
thanks to everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Loving.
Love you guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Yep, loving it all. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.